He only pretended to be blind to expose people's true intentions. But the woman who walked in with a child was about to break every rule of his dangerous game. The Sterling was one of the most exclusive restaurants in Manhattan, quiet and polished like a jewel box. Marcus Wellington sat alone in a private dining room, dark glasses on, a white cane leaning against his table. To anyone watching, he looked like a wealthy man recovering from a tragic accident that had stolen his sight. But Marcus could see perfectly. At 34, he had built a tech empire worth billions, but success had shown him an uglier side of people. Too many smiles aimed at his wallet instead of him. So for 6 months, he had run a secret test: pretend to be blind on every arranged date, pretend to need help, pretend to be vulnerable, and watch who showed their real heart. 12 women had already failed. Patricia, his assistant, thought the idea was extreme. Marcus thought it was fair. Tonight's date was Veronica Chase, someone with money in her background but none left in her present. She arrived with confidence clicking in her heels, introduced herself with a polished smile, and took her seat like she expected the room to applaud. Marcus did his usual routine. He extended his hand in the wrong direction so she would guide him. She did, carefully, but with a hesitation he had already learned to recognize. Concern only for appearance, not for him. Dinner was predictable. Veronica ordered the most expensive dishes without embarrassment, talked endlessly about fashion and luxury trips, and barely asked Marcus a single genuine question. When he purposely knocked over his glass, she jumped back to save her dress rather than steady him. By dessert, she leaned forward and said, "I could be your eyes at events. Someone has to guide you through high society." That was enough. After she left, Patricia stepped in from the side door, shaking her head. "That's 12 failures," she said softly. Marcus sighed. "Schedule the next one." "There's something you should know," Patricia said. "The next woman isn't from our usual agency. A friend of mine insisted. She's a nurse. Single mother. Her name is Claire Morrison." "A nurse," Marcus repeated. "That's different." Patricia nodded. "And she didn't even want the date. Her friend signed her up." Marcus shrugged it off. Different or not, the same rules would apply. 3 days later, he was back in the private room, performing the familiar blindness routine. He heard the door open and froze when he heard not one, but 2 sets of footsteps. A woman's voice said, warm and embarrassed, "Mr. Wellington, I'm so sorry. My babysitter canceled last minute. I'm Claire Morrison, and this is my daughter, Sophie. She's 7. I understand if you want to reschedule." Marcus wasn't prepared for this. A small voice whispered, "Mommy, do I have to be quiet the whole time?" Claire hushed her gently. Marcus found himself smiling despite the disruption. "How old are you, Sophie?" "I'm 7, she said politely. "I brought coloring books so I don't bother you." That alone touched him more than any polished greeting had in months. "Please sit," he said, suddenly unsure of his own script. Claire helped her daughter settle, opened a small backpack, and apologized again. Her voice carried exhaustion but also genuine sincerity. She smelled faintly of lavender soap, not expensive perfume. Dinner felt different from the moment it began. Claire ordered modestly. She talked about her long day with humor, not self-pity. When Marcus intentionally fumbled a napkin, she returned it to him without making it dramatic or sympathetic. Just simple kindness. Sophie sat quietly, coloring, but when dessert arrived her stomach growled loud enough to be heard. Claire froze, embarrassed, and Marcus understood instantly. She had chosen something inexpensive for herself but not enough for her daughter. He gently offered, "I heard this place has great chocolate cake. Would you help me eat a slice?" Sophie's eyes lit up. Claire started to protest, but Marcus insisted, and something warm shifted inside him when the little girl smiled in relief. For the first time in 6 months, his test didn't feel like a test. It felt like a door opening. Claire described the city lights for him without being asked, painting a picture with her words more vivid than the view he could actually see. When Sophie grew sleepy, Claire guided Marcus toward the exit, not grabbing him, not controlling him, simply asking, "Would you like me to walk with you to your car? Just to make sure you're safe." There was no calculation in her voice. Just concern. As they stood outside, Marcus made a decision without thinking. "Would you like to meet again? Maybe somewhere more relaxed. A park where Sophie can play. Claire inhaled sharply, surprised. After this chaotic evening? Really? Especially after this evening, Marcus said. She nodded slowly. Okay. I'd like that. As they walked away, a man hidden in the shadows watched Marcus closely. He had been waiting for Marcus to come out alone. The plan was to strike when the billionaire was at his most vulnerable. But tonight, Marcus wasn't alone. And that small change had just saved his life. He only meant to test her, but the moment she arrived at the park with her daughter, the lie he'd built for months began to collapse. Saturday morning came with crisp autumn air as Marcus waited in Central Park, wearing his tinted glasses and holding the white cane that had become part of his disguise. For the first time, he felt nervous. Not about being exposed, but about seeing Claire and Sophie again. Sophie spotted him first. Her bright yellow jacket bounced through the leaves as she ran ahead. Marcus. Mommy says we're feeding ducks today, she announced, full of energy. Marcus crouched to her level. Then it's a good thing I brought bread. Claire walked up slowly, a little shy, wearing simple clothes that spoke more of responsibility than fashion. There were tiny patches on Sophie's jacket, careful stitches that showed patience and pride. Marcus noticed everything. His chest tightened unexpectedly. Thank you for doing this, Claire said. Sophie hasn't stopped talking about you. I'm glad she's excited, Marcus replied, offering his arm so she could guide him. Shall we? They walked along the path while Claire described the vibrant trees, joggers, and sunlight breaking through the branches. She didn't do it to impress him. She simply wanted him included. Her descriptions were so gentle and vivid that Marcus found himself closing his eyes to listen, forgetting he was supposed to pretend blindness. Sophie ran ahead, but never too far. Claire kept track of her with quiet, practiced awareness. Marcus watched her in small moments, how she checked Sophie's shoelaces, how she scanned crowds with protective instinct, how she never once looked annoyed or overwhelmed by motherhood. Tell me about Sophie's father, Marcus said softly. He hadn't planned to ask. Claire's steps slowed. We married young, she said. He left when Sophie was a baby. He wasn't ready to be a father and walked out one morning. No fight, no warning. Just gone. I'm sorry, Marcus said quietly. Claire shrugged gently. We made it. Sophie doesn't remember him. And I learned I'm stronger than I ever thought. Then she asked, what about you? Patricia mentioned your accident. Marcus swallowed hard. Here came the lie he'd practiced. Car accident. 6 months ago. Doctors don't know if I'll regain my sight. The words tasted bitter. He had never felt guilt over this script until now. They reached the lake and sat on a bench while Sophie tossed bread to the ducks. Claire guided Marcus with a soft touch on his elbow. Every gesture felt natural, unforced. It made the lie between them feel heavier. After a while, Claire asked, that first night, you seemed surprised when I brought Sophie. Why? Marcus hesitated. Most people would have cancelled or made excuses. You just told the truth. That meant something. Claire smiled slightly. I don't believe in starting anything with lies. The words hit him like a punch. He opened his mouth to respond, but Sophie came running back, breathless. There's a magician over there. Can we go see? Marcus stood immediately. Lead the way. The magician performed simple tricks, coins appearing, scarves changing color. But what captivated Marcus wasn't the show. It was Sophie's wonder. Every time she gasped, she stepped closer to him without thinking. When the magician finished, Sophie looked longingly at the tip hat. Marcus pulled out his wallet and pretended to struggle. Claire noticed the money inside, but her expression stayed calm. No greed, no calculation. She simply helped him take out a bill and whispered, "A5 is enough." Sophie's smile is worth more, Marcus said softly. Claire blinked fast, looking away for a moment. They walked to a food cart and Marcus bought hot dogs for everyone. Claire tried to refuse until Sophie looked up hopefully. They sat on the grass while Sophie talked non-stop about school, animals, and wanting to volunteer at an animal shelter called Happy Paws. Her joy was infectious. Later, at the playground, Claire described Sophie swinging across monkey bars like a tiny acrobat. Her voice painted moments Marcus never realized he'd missed in life. He felt something warm spread through him every time she laughed. As the sky turned gold with sunset, they headed back. Sophie grew tired, rubbing her eyes. Without thinking, Marcus lifted her onto his shoulders. It was risky for someone pretending to be blind, but he managed by claiming he used to do it for his cousins. Claire watched with softened eyes. Most men would run when they see a single mom with a child. Most men are fools, Marcus replied. I like being with you both. It feels real. Claire stopped walking. Marcus, I need to be honest too. I'm not looking for someone to save us. Sophie and I manage. We don't need money. If you want to be in our lives, it has to be because you choose us. Not out of pity. Marcus turned toward her, even though she thought he couldn't see her face. I don't pity you, he said softly. I feel lucky. Claire's breath caught. For a few seconds, Marcus almost confessed everything. The sunglasses. The lie. His real vision. His real world. But fear stopped him. What if she walked away? They reached the subway entrance and exchanged numbers. As Claire and Sophie descended the stairs, Patricia appeared behind Marcus. You're in trouble, she said. I know, Marcus whispered. I'm falling for them. Then tell her the truth. I will, he said. Just, not yet. What he didn't know was that someone else also watched him at the park that day. His driver, Thomas, carrying heavy secrets of his own. Secrets that were about to explode and pull Marcus, Claire, and Sophie into danger none of them saw coming. While Marcus fell deeper for Claire, someone close to him was preparing a betrayal that could end everything, including his life. The next few weeks slipped into a rhythm Marcus hadn't expected. He met Claire and Sophie again at a children's museum, where Sophie dragged him through exhibits with the excitement of a tiny tour guide. She made him touch fossil replicas, plastic dinosaur bones, and a wall of glowing constellations. Marcus pretended to follow her lead with hesitant steps, though his eyes caught every detail she pointed at. Claire watched them with a quiet smile. She wasn't trying to impress him. She wasn't trying to win anything. She simply enjoyed the moment. Another week, they met at a small Italian restaurant owned by an elderly couple. The owner's grandmother insisted Sophie help make fresh pasta in the kitchen. Flour covered her cheeks, and Marcus found himself laughing harder than he had in years. But in each new moment of joy, the lie pressed harder on his chest. More than once Marcus forgot his act and turned too quickly or looked directly at someone. Claire didn't notice. She was too busy describing things for him, too trusting to imagine he had been lying from the start. Meanwhile, something else had started to unravel behind the scenes. On a cold November evening, Marcus sat in his penthouse office while Patricia stood in front of him, her expression uneasy. We have a problem, she said. Thomas came to me today. He's been different lately. Nervous. Sweating. Jumpy. When I asked about it, he shut down. What did he say? Marcus asked. He wanted to know your schedule. Specifically, when you'd be alone. When I pressed him, he panicked and left. A chill ran up Marcus's spine. Thomas had worked for him for 8 years. Loyal. Dependable. But debt changed people. Desperation changed them even more. Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed. Claire had texted. Sophie keeps asking when she can see you again. Are you free this weekend? No pressure. Marcus smiled despite the tension. Clear my Saturday, he told Patricia. I'm taking them to the animal shelter. I already arranged it with the director. Patricia stared at him. Marcus, be serious. Something is wrong with Thomas. I heard you, Marcus said. Look into it privately. But don't cancel my plans with Claire. Patricia's shoulders softened slightly. And the truth. Are you going to tell her? Marcus sighed. Yes. After the shelter. She deserves that. Patricia stepped closer, lowering her voice. You love her. Marcus didn't hesitate. I do. And Sophie too. As soon as he admitted it, fear crept in. What if Claire couldn't forgive him? What if she walked away forever? But the decision was made. Saturday would be the day. The morning arrived with icy air and pale sunlight. Marcus stood outside Happy Paws, glasses on, cane in hand, performing his familiar act. When Claire and Sophie arrived, the little girl practically bounced toward him. "Marcus, are we really going inside?" "Really?" "We are," he said. "And someone special wants to meet you." Inside, the shelter was warm and loud with barking and meowing. Sophie's eyes grew huge as dogs and cats peeked from behind kennel doors. Claire's hand occasionally brushed Marcus's arm to guide him, gentle but cautious. Helen, the shelter director, greeted them and led them to different rooms. Sophie sat in the reading corner with a shy orange tabby on her lap, carefully sounding out words from her picture book. The cat relaxed like it had finally found peace. Claire stood beside Marcus, describing the soft afternoon light, the way Sophie's voice soothed the cat, and how the kitten curled into her like it had been waiting for her. Marcus listened to every word. Helen pulled him aside. "That cat is impossible with most people. But look at him now. If you ever want to adopt—" "We're not a family," Marcus started to say, then stopped. Weren't they becoming something like one? After thinking for only a moment, he said, "If Claire agrees, we'll take him." Claire protested instantly. "No. Marcus, you can't. That's too much." "Sophie loves him," Marcus said quietly. "And some things are worth giving." Claire's eyes filled with tears she tried to hide. "Thank you. You don't know what this means." They spent the afternoon completing paperwork and gathering supplies. When Claire invited Marcus to help settle the cat at her apartment, he agreed. But Claire's neighborhood was cramped and worn. The apartment was tiny, a single bedroom for Sophie and a pull-out couch for Claire. Yet it was spotless, warm, and filled with love in every corner. Setting up Marmalade, the cat, took nearly an hour. Sophie was overflowing with joy. Claire made dinner, simple spaghetti, but Marcus loved it more than any high-end meal. After Sophie went to bed, Marcus heard her small voice through the thin wall. "Mommy, will Marcus be my daddy someday?" Claire answered softly, not knowing Marcus could hear. "I don't know, sweetheart. But wouldn't that be wonderful?" Marcus's heart clenched. This was the moment. He needed to confess everything. He and Claire sat on the small couch. She reached for his hand. "Marcus, these weeks have been special," she said quietly. "I'm falling in love with you. And that scares me, because of Sophie." Marcus felt the world blur for a moment. He opened his mouth to speak. His phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. "Thomas is in the hospital. Suicide attempt. He left a note. He was paid to kill you. You need to come now." Marcus's blood froze. Claire saw the change in his face. "Marcus, what happened? Tell me." I have to go," he said, standing too quickly, breaking the blind act. "Emergency. I'll explain tomorrow." He rushed out the door before she could stop him. Claire stood alone in her small living room, confused and hurt, having no idea that her world and Marcus's were about to collide with danger far bigger than a broken heart. The truth he had hidden for months was about to explode, because the man paid to kill him had finally confessed everything. Marcus reached the hospital in a rush. The cold air burned his lungs as he pushed through the double doors and followed the directions Patricia texted him. He didn't bother wearing his sunglasses now. For the first time in months, he wasn't thinking about the act at all. Patricia waited outside the intensive care unit. Her face was tight with worry. "Thomas is alive," she said quietly. "Barely. They sedated him. But the police found his suicide note." Marcus swallowed hard. What did it say? Patricia handed him a printed copy. Everything. The note described how Vincent Caruso, a rival businessman, had approached Thomas weeks ago. Caruso had lost millions when Marcus's company beat him on a government contract. He wanted revenge, and he wanted it clean, a mugging gone wrong, a vulnerable blind billionaire taken by surprise. $200,000. That was the price on Marcus Wellington's life. Marcus felt sick. When was he supposed to act? 3 weeks ago, Patricia said. At night. When you leave the Sterling restaurant alone. Marcus froze. The night I met Claire. And Sophie. Patricia nodded. Yes. Thomas wrote that seeing you smile with that little girl, seeing you look happy for the first time in years, made him stop. He couldn't go through with it after that. For a moment, Marcus couldn't breathe. Claire and Sophie had saved him without knowing. Patricia continued, "The police arrested Caruso an hour ago. Reporters got wind of everything. They're going to publish the story by morning." Marcus closed his eyes. "The murder plot. Everything, Marcus." Patricia hesitated. "Including the fact that you're not actually blind." The world seemed to tilt. "She's going to find out from the news," Patricia added softly. "Tell her first. Tonight." Marcus didn't waste another second. He ran out of the hospital and called Claire. She answered on the 6th ring, groggy and confused. "Marcus, it's late. What's happening?" "I need to see you right now," he said. "Please. I need to explain something important." A long silence, then a soft sigh. "Okay. Come over." The drive felt endless. When Claire opened the door, she stood in her robe, hair messy from sleep, eyes worried. Marcus took a deep breath, removed his tinted glasses, and looked directly at her. "I can see you," he said quietly. "I've always been able to see." Claire stared at him, shock draining the color from her face. "What are you talking about?" "There was no accident," Marcus said. "I pretended to be blind for 6 months. It was a test. To see who cared about me for me." Claire stepped back like he had slapped her. "You lied to me. To my daughter." "Claire, my feelings for you are real. Everything except the blindness." She cut him off with a whisper that hurt more than shouting. "Sophie drew a picture of you with a cane. She told her teacher about her friend Marcus who couldn't see. She trusted you. And it was all a lie." Marcus stepped forward, but Claire held up a shaking hand. "No, don't. Just answer one thing. What made you think I needed to be tested?" "It wasn't you, I swear," Marcus said desperately. "It was everyone before you. I didn't know how to trust anymore." Claire laughed, bitter and broken. "So your solution was to lie to a single mother who already struggles to trust people? My daughter finally let someone in. And you became another disappointment." Marcus's throat tightened. He hadn't thought about how his deception would hit a child already abandoned by her father. "I fell in love with you," Marcus whispered. "That wasn't a lie." "Love isn't manipulation," Claire said. "Love doesn't hide behind fake weakness." Marcus tried again. "Let me explain." "How?" she said. "How do I trust anything now? Every moment we shared, every conversation, was it all an act?" "No," Marcus said fiercely. "The lie was the blindness. Everything else was real. Every smile. Every moment with Sophie. Every feeling." Claire wiped her eyes, but the tears kept coming. "I told you I was falling in love with you. And you still didn't tell me the truth." "I was going to," Marcus said. "Tonight. Right after the shelter." Claire opened the door slowly. "I think you should leave." "Claire, please." "Go," she said, voice trembling. "I need to think. And I need to protect my daughter." Marcus walked out, the door closing quietly behind him. He stopped in the hallway, shattered. "The man I fell in love with," Claire said softly before the door clicked shut, "never existed." Marcus's heart cracked. He returned to the car where Patricia waited. One look at him and she understood. "She hates me," Marcus whispered. "What now?" Patricia asked gently. Marcus stared out the window, voice hollow. "I fix it," he said. "Whatever it takes." The next morning, chaos exploded. Headlines plastered across news sites. "Billionaire targeted in murder plot." "Driver confesses to staged accident plan." "Wellington's fake blindness exposed." Claire didn't answer his calls. Didn't read his texts. Didn't respond at all. 3 days later, Marcus made decisions that surprised even himself. He created a trust fund for Sophie, college, healthcare, security, no strings attached, anonymous. He stepped away from his company and handed control to Patricia. And he did something no one expected. He went back to Happy Paws. Not as a billionaire. Not as a man hiding behind lies. but as a volunteer who cleaned kennels, fed animals, and read to shy cats alone in quiet rooms. On the third day, Sophie walked into the shelter with her school reading group. She froze when she saw him. Then her face crumpled. She ran to her teacher, sobbing. "That's Marcus," she cried. "But Mommy says he lied." Her tiny voice echoed through the room, breaking Marcus piece by piece. Helen, the shelter director, came to him quietly. "That little girl adored you," she said. "So figure out how to make it right. Stop hiding behind guilt and prove you've changed." Marcus knew she was right. He called his lawyer. "I need full financial disclosure. Everything I own. And arrange a meeting with Claire. 1 hour. No lawyers, no pressure. Just me and the truth." 2 days later, his lawyer returned. "She agreed," he said. "Saturday. In the park. Her only rule: you get 60 minutes. If she walks away after that, you never contact her again." Marcus nodded. He deserved no less. Saturday was coming fast. And for the first time in his life, Marcus Wellington was afraid of losing something money could never replace. He came to the park prepared to lose her forever, but Claire wasn't the only one he would need to win back. Saturday arrived cold and gray. Marcus walked through the park with a folder in his hand, the one containing every detail of his finances and a letter he had written after many sleepless nights. This wasn't a gesture to impress her. It was honesty offered with no protection left. Claire was already sitting on a bench, her coat wrapped tightly around her. She looked calmer than the night he confessed, but not softer. She looked like someone who had built new walls because someone she trusted broke the old ones. She didn't smile when he approached. "Your hour starts now," she said quietly. Marcus nodded. "Thank you for meeting me." He sat on the opposite end of the bench, leaving space between them. He didn't reach for her. He didn't try to touch her hand. He knew he had no right. "I'll start with the truth," Marcus said. "All of it." He told her everything. The failed dates. The greed. The empty conversations. The loneliness he had buried under money and work. He told her about the first night with her and Sophie, the moment he felt something shift. How Claire's simple kindness shook him more than any lie he'd ever told. Claire listened silently, her eyes steady on the lake. "I didn't continue the act because I doubted you," Marcus said. "I continued it because I doubted myself. I didn't know how to be honest anymore. Not truly." Claire finally spoke. "You know what hurt the most? That you saw me. You saw my shabby coat, my patched shoes, my apartment. And you still thought I might be like the others. That's what cut deeper than anything." Marcus lowered his head. "I was wrong. You proved it in 5 minutes. I should have told you that night. I should have taken off the glasses right then." Claire took a slow breath. "Do you know what Sophie asked me last week? She asked if all adults lie. First her father, then you. What do I even say to that?" Her voice cracked on the last word. Marcus felt something twist sharply inside him. "I will spend the rest of my life being honest with her. With both of you. Even if you never want to see me again." He handed her the folder. Claire opened it, expecting a trick. Instead, she found complete financial transparency. Mistakes, assets, debts, donations, nothing hidden. "What is this?" she whispered. "No more secrets," Marcus said. "And there's a letter inside for Sophie too. And a trust fund set up for her. It's hers even if I'm out of your lives completely. No conditions." Claire's eyes widened. "Marcus, this is too much." "It's not nearly enough," he said. "But it's something honest. Something that can help her future." Rain began to fall lightly, dotting the papers. Claire closed the folder quickly and tucked it into her coat. They sat quietly for a long time. "I need more time," Claire finally said. "I can't forgive you just because you feel sorry. Or because you came with papers and speeches. Trust doesn't work like that. It has to be rebuilt. Slowly. Carefully." "I understand," Marcus said. Claire stood up, then hesitated. For the first time that day, her voice softened. "For what it's worth," she said quietly, "I believe you loved us. I still believe that. But love without trust becomes a beautiful lie. And I can't live in lies anymore. Not for Sophie. Not for myself. Marcus nodded. He didn't reach for her. He didn't beg. He simply watched her walk away through the rain, holding the folder that carried every truth he had left. The next 3 months were slow and heavy. Marcus continued working at the animal shelter, cleaning cages, feeding kittens, reading to shy cats who hid in corners. It grounded him in a way his wealth never had. He donated anonymously to Sophie's school. He stopped dating completely. He focused on becoming someone who didn't need to lie to feel safe. And then, on a bright February afternoon, Helen called him to the front desk. "There's someone here for you," she said. Marcus turned the corner and froze. Sophie stood there holding Marmalade's carrier. Claire was behind her, watching him carefully. Sophie spoke first. "Marmalade needs a checkup. And Mommy says you know about cats now." Marcus knelt in front of her. "I do. Would you like me to help?" Sophie bit her lip. "Are you still lying? Because I miss you. But Mommy says I should only trust people who tell the truth." Marcus's chest tightened painfully. "I'm not lying anymore," he said softly. "I shouldn't have lied at all. And I'm so sorry. You deserve the truth. Always." Sophie studied him with the seriousness only a child could hold. Then she handed him the carrier without a word. Claire stepped closer. "She's been asking about you every day," she said quietly. "She told me everyone makes mistakes. And if Marmalade forgave her for stepping on his tail, maybe forgiveness is possible." Marcus exhaled shakily. "And you? Do you forgive me?" Claire didn't answer immediately. She looked tired, thoughtful, cautious. "I don't know yet," she said honestly. "But I'm here. And that's more than I thought I'd be able to do. Patricia told me about the work you've been doing. The volunteer hours. The donations. The changes. So we're here to see for ourselves." It wasn't forgiveness. But it was a beginning. After Marmalade's checkup, Sophie ran to the shelter garden to play. Marcus and Claire watched her from a distance while cats wandered around the bushes. "I learned something these past months," Marcus said. "Love isn't about testing people. It's about trusting them. Even when trust is scary." "Can you live that way?" Claire asked gently. Marcus nodded. "Every day. If you let me." Claire hesitated, then smiled softly. "I think we can start small. Dinner next week. No pressure. Just see where things go. Slowly." Marcus's heart lifted. "I'd like that." Sophie ran back, Marmalade purring in her arms. "Can Marcus have pizza with us?" she asked. Claire looked at Marcus, searching him. He nodded. "Yes, sweetheart," Claire said. "Marcus can come." As they walked out of the shelter together, Sophie in the middle holding both their hands, something warm settled inside Marcus. It wasn't victory. It wasn't certainty. It was hope. Hope earned slowly, honestly. And this time, with no lies at all. He finally had a second chance. But danger from his past wasn't finished with him yet. Life didn't magically fix itself overnight, but something steady began to grow between Marcus, Claire, and Sophie. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just real. Marcus kept volunteering at the animal shelter. He showed up early, cleaned cages, swept floors, fed kittens, walked dogs, and never asked for special treatment. The staff slowly stopped seeing him as a billionaire pretending to be humble and began seeing him as someone who genuinely wanted to help. Claire noticed too. Their first dinner after months apart was simple. A tiny pizza place near her apartment. No reservations. No private dining room. No hidden cameras. Just 3 chairs, a red checkered tablecloth, and Sophie showing Marcus how to fold a napkin into a swan. Things felt different. Softer. Cautious but warm. Marcus didn't try to impress Claire. He didn't hide behind confidence. When he didn't know what to say, he admitted it. When something scared him, he said so. Claire watched him closely, searching for signs of dishonesty. But all she found was sincerity trying to earn its way back. Over the next few weeks, Marcus joined them for small, ordinary moments. He helped Sophie with homework. He carried groceries up the stairs. He played chase with Marmalade in the hallway. And every time he left their apartment, Sophie hugged him a little longer. But Claire, she held back. Not in a cold way, but in a careful way. She had forgiven pieces of him, but trust was still something he had to rebuild inch by inch. One evening, Claire asked him to walk with her after they put Sophie to bed. They walked down the block, the cold wind brushing past them. "Marcus," she said quietly, "I'm trying, really trying. But part of me is still scared." "I know," Marcus answered gently. "I'm scared too." She looked up at him. "Why would you be scared?" "Because I don't want to lose this," he said. "You, Sophie, this chance to be something real." Claire nodded slowly. "Just promise me something. No more lies. Not even small ones." "I promise," he said. And this time, it wasn't a performance. It was a vow. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. But outside this little bubble of healing, the world had not forgotten the chaos surrounding Marcus Wellington. The media still followed updates about Vincent Caruso, the man who had tried to orchestrate Marcus's murder. Reporters waited for the trial. Lawyers prepared their evidence. The whole city wanted answers. Marcus avoided all attention. He wanted a quiet life for now. A small one. One that fit inside Claire's modest apartment and Sophie's laughter. But peace rarely lasts forever. One afternoon in March, Patricia arrived unannounced at the animal shelter. She looked urgent as she pulled Marcus aside. "It's time," she said. "The prosecutors want you to testify in Caruso's trial." Marcus felt tension settle in his chest. "I expected that." "They'll ask everything," Patricia continued. "About Thomas. About the plot. About the fake blindness. Reporters will try to twist it. They'll go after Claire too. You need to prepare." Marcus rubbed his forehead. "I don't want Claire dragged into this." Patricia sighed. "She might be, whether you want it or not." Marcus knew she was right. He went to Claire's apartment that evening to tell her. Sophie opened the door, wearing pajamas covered in stars. Marmalade rubbed against Marcus's leg, purring. "Mommy's in the kitchen," she said, smiling. Claire greeted Marcus with a warm but tired smile. After Sophie went to bed, Marcus explained everything. Caruso, the trial, the testimony he had to give, the reporters who would chase the story again. Claire listened quietly, folding her arms. "This means the lie will come back into the spotlight," she said. "All the details. Everything you did." "I know," Marcus said softly. "I'm ready to face it. But I'm worried about you and Sophie." Claire took a long breath. "The truth is already out, Marcus. The whole world knows. You can't undo what happened. But facing it honestly, that matters." She stepped closer. "If you testify, do it because it's right. Not because you think it will fix things with us." "I'm doing it because someone tried to kill me," Marcus said. "And I won't let him do that to anyone else." Claire nodded. "Then I support you." Those words hit deeper than he expected. That night, Marcus stayed for tea while Claire talked about her day. Sophie came out sleepily and crawled into Marcus's lap without hesitation. She rested her head against his chest and murmured, "Don't go. Stay with us." Claire watched the scene quietly. It wasn't romantic. It was something deeper. A moment that felt like family. Later, when Marcus finally left, he walked down the street with a strange tightness in his throat. He realized something he hadn't admitted aloud. He didn't just love Claire. He loved the life he had with them. Not the billionaire life. Not the public life. This small, imperfect life, crowded apartment, noisy cat, cheap pizza, bedtime stories, school projects, this was where he belonged. But the trial ahead threatened to pull him back into the world he'd been trying to escape. Soon, he would have to choose what kind of man he wanted to be, and whether the truth he carried now was strong enough to hold on to the two people he cared about most. The trial would test him in public, but the real test was happening quietly at home, where one wrong step could shatter everything he was rebuilding. The weeks leading up to the trial were heavy. Reporters camped outside Marcus's office. Articles dissected every detail of the murder plot and brought up his fake blindness again and again. He ignored all of it. His focus stayed on Claire and Sophie. Whenever he wasn't preparing testimony, he went straight to the shelter or to Claire's apartment. He helped Sophie with school projects, fixing her paper solar system when one of the planets fell off. He repaired a broken kitchen cabinet that had been sticking for months. He learned how to fold laundry properly the way Claire liked, because creases matter, she joked. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't billionaire life. It was real. Claire watched him differently now. Not with suspicion, but with a slow, growing awareness that he wasn't pretending anymore. There were moments when her guard softened, like when he made Sophie laugh so hard milk came out of her nose, or when he carried groceries up 3 flights of stairs without complaining. But there were also moments when she tensed, small reminders of old wounds. If he arrived late, she stiffened. If he forgot to text back immediately, her expression changed. Trust takes time, and Marcus didn't rush her. Every time he saw that flicker of doubt in her eyes, he accepted it with patience instead of frustration. One evening, a few days before the trial, Marcus came over with Chinese takeout. Sophie ran to greet him, jumping into his arms, and Marmalade circled his feet like a furry guard. Claire was in the kitchen, stirring soup she was making for the next day. "I have good news," Marcus said as he unpacked the food. "Helen says Sophie can volunteer at the shelter when she turns 8. They approved her early." Sophie squealed with excitement. "Mommy, I'm going to help real animals." Claire smiled, that warm smile that always made Marcus's chest tighten. "Thank you, Marcus. That means a lot to her." After dinner, Sophie went to brush her teeth while Claire and Marcus cleaned up. "Are you nervous about the trial?" she asked quietly. Marcus shrugged. "A little. Not about telling the truth. Just about everything else that comes with it. Cameras. Reporters. The questions." Claire put a dish on the drying rack. "The truth is simple. Just tell it." Marcus noticed how steady her voice was. Claire had been through enough storms to know how to stand firm in them. Her strength reminded him why he fell for her. The night before the trial, Marcus couldn't sleep. He paced his penthouse, unable to shake the fear that something might go wrong, or that his past would swallow the future he was trying to build. The next morning, he walked into the courtroom with Patricia beside him. Reporters shouted his name, cameras flashed, and lawyers shuffled papers. Vincent Caruso sat at the defense table, cold and calm, like a man who still believed he could win. Marcus took the stand and told the truth. Everything. How Caruso had offered his driver money to orchestrate a staged mugging. How Thomas had backed out after seeing Marcus with Claire and Sophie. How the plot would have succeeded if not for that one unexpected moment in the park. Caruso's lawyers attacked his credibility, bringing up his fake blindness repeatedly, trying to paint him as manipulative. Marcus didn't hide from it. He admitted it openly. "Yes, I lied," he said to the courtroom. "I lied to strangers to protect myself from people who wanted something from me. And that was wrong. But that lie has nothing to do with why this man tried to have me killed." The honesty hit harder than any defense strategy. When the session ended, Claire was waiting outside with Sophie and Marmalade in his carrier. Sophie ran to Marcus and hugged him tightly. "Mommy said you told the truth," she said proudly. "I'm happy." That sentence alone made the entire ordeal worth it. Claire approached slowly. "You did well," she said. "You spoke honestly. I'm proud of you." Her voice was steady, but her eyes were warm. It was the first time she had said she was proud of him. They walked out of the courthouse together. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, but Marcus didn't care. All he could think about was the feeling of Sophie holding his hand, Claire walking beside him, and the sense that maybe, just maybe, they were becoming a family again. That night, they had dinner in Claire's small kitchen. Sophie practiced reading out loud while Marmalade batted at her shoelaces. Claire made tea and sat beside Marcus at the table. "You're different now," she said softly. "Not because of what you have, but because of who you're trying to be." Marcus met her eyes. "I'm trying for you. And for Sophie." Claire didn't kiss him. She didn't promise anything. She simply reached out and took his hand. For Marcus, that gentle touch was more powerful than any declaration. But the journey wasn't over. Trust was growing. Love was returning. But the final test, the hardest one, was still waiting. He had spent months trying to earn forgiveness, but the real proof of love would come in the smallest, quietest moments. Caruso's trial dragged on for weeks, but Marcus's part in it was done. He stepped back from public attention again, focusing entirely on rebuilding something real with Claire and Sophie. Life didn't change suddenly. It shifted slowly, gently, step by step. One afternoon, a few weeks after the trial, Sophie came home from school with a drawing tucked under her arm. She ran straight to Marcus, who was sitting on the living room floor playing with marmalade. "Look," she said proudly, holding out the paper. "Our family." Marcus looked at the drawing. It showed Claire, Sophie, Marmalade, and him. But this time, there were no dark glasses. No white cane. Just a smiling man holding Sophie's hand. Claire stood in the doorway, watching quietly. Something warm flickered in her eyes, something he hadn't seen in a long time. "That's beautiful," Marcus said softly. "Can I keep it?" Sophie nodded. "It's for you. Mommy said you can put it wherever you want." Claire blinked, surprised. She hadn't known Sophie planned that. Later that evening, after Sophie went to bed, Claire made tea while Marcus washed the dishes in her tiny kitchen. She watched him silently for a moment, his sleeves rolled up, hair slightly messy, humming something under his breath. "You fit here," Claire said softly. Marcus turned. "What do you mean?" "In this little apartment," she said. "With our noisy cat. With bedtime chaos. With spilled cereal and broken pencils. You fit in our world better than you think." Marcus dried his hands slowly. "It's the only world I want." They sat on the couch, close but not touching, steam rising from their teacups. The room was dim, warm, quiet. A small space filled with big emotions. "Marcus," Claire said, her voice steady but gentle, "I'm not afraid of loving you. Not anymore." He turned toward her, heart pounding. "I was afraid," she continued. "Afraid of letting someone in. Afraid of being hurt again. But you've been patient. You've been honest. Consistent. And Sophie," Claire smiled softly, "she loves you. Completely." Marcus swallowed. "I love her too. And I love you." Claire didn't flinch this time. She didn't look away. "I know," she whispered. For the first time since the night she learned the truth, Claire leaned forward and kissed him, soft, slow, certain. Not a dramatic moment, not a movie scene, just a quiet return to something fragile and true. When she pulled back, she rested her forehead against his. "We take this slow. No rushing. No performing. Just real life. The three of us." Marcus nodded. "Whatever pace you choose." The months that followed were quiet but full of meaning. Marcus remained at the shelter, reading to shy cats and helping families adopt. He worked less, lived more. Claire allowed him deeper into her world. School meetings, library trips, weekends at the park. One spring morning, Sophie surprised him by running into the living room and shouting, "You're staying forever, right?" Marcus froze. Claire appeared behind her, smiling. "If you want to," she said softly. Marcus knelt in front of Sophie. "Forever sounds perfect to me." Sophie hugged him so tightly he almost fell backward. Marmalade meowed loudly, climbing onto Marcus's lap like a second confirmation. Claire joined them, sitting beside him on the carpet. She rested her head on his shoulder while Sophie talked excitedly about their plans for the day. In that messy, crowded moment, Marcus realized something. He had spent years searching for people's true intentions, building walls, testing hearts. But the truth he had been afraid of was simple. Love doesn't grow in control. Love grows in honesty, in vulnerability, in choosing someone every day, even when it's hard. Claire chose him now. Slowly, cautiously, fully. And he chose her, with no disguises left. As the sun streamed through the small apartment window, Marcus looked at Claire, Sophie, and Marmalade curled around them and understood. This imperfect little family, this tiny home, this simple happiness, was worth more than anything he had ever built with billions. And for the first time in his life, Marcus Wellington wasn't looking for tests or lies. He was finally living the truth.